Hey, Dad.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good. Hey, welcome to the podcast to everybody watching online.
Yeah, we're
Um,
glad you joined us this evening. We got a great topic. We always have a great topic, don't we? We have
yeah,
great
this one,
topics.
this
Hopefully,
one I
we
think is
have something good to say about them.
hopefully,
Good
I think this
topic's a good
one's
start.
this one's gonna be pretty relevant to everybody. So I remember a few years ago, I got really burned by this pastor that
No,
was,
really?
I was working with, and I remember coming to you. I was like, Dad, I've been really hurt by the church, and you normally compassionate. You
I
said.
take a number, get in line. You want to compare scars? Something like that, probably. No, I'm sure I was much
I
kinder
think
than
you,
that. I
yeah, I
just
think you
think
said
those things.
welcome to the club. Now you're ready to be
Well,
serving in the church. I was like, what? What are you saying? You're saying everybody that hangs out in the church at some point is going to get hurt?
yeah, I'm afraid that's the case.
And I started thinking about it. I'm like, even Jesus got hurt by the church.
And hurt a whole lot more than you or I will ever probably get hurt. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
that pastor was not able to crucify me, but yeah, but I think we've all been hurt
Yeah,
at some point by the church. And even people, I know a lot of people that say, well, I love God, I love Jesus, but
yeah,
man, those church people, they're the worst.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't want to be around those people. And honestly, I've been around some church people that they are the worst. I mean, I've heard people say, I get treated better by people that are outside the church than people
Yeah.
in the church. What's the
Actually, I think
deal?
you said that one time.
Oh, maybe that was me.
I think that was you, yes.
So what's your take on it, Dad?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. If you're in the church, if you're really getting engaged, you're going to get hurt. And I really don't want to sound uncompassionate about it because it is painful. I mean, but I guess it's the fact that you and we've been there several times. And it seems like each one gets more painful than the last. So I understand what that's like. I mean, we really do. We understand that. And so we don't want to make light of it. But I think we do need to understand a couple of things. The idea where you're saying that, well, people in the world treat me better than people in the church. A lot of that has to do with when you get in the church, you're really exchanging life. You're living life. If you're really involved in the church, you are exchanging life with people. And I use this example. You've probably heard me. I'm sure you've heard me before say, if you dance with someone close enough and long enough, especially if you're an amateur, you're going to get your toes stepped on, but you're going to step on some toes too. And so your choice is you either go sit in the corner and be a little wallflower and sit the dance out, or you just get back in and, do the Calvin and Hobbes thing, just dance around and step on toes and do whatever and get your toes stepped on, but just get back in there and keep dancing.
And that's a good point. If you're an amateur, and honestly, we're all amateurs. I think at
Yeah.
churches we think, oh well, he's a pastor, he should know better. He's
No,
an amateur, man.
we're
They're
all
all
still learning. Yeah.
yeah.
We're
That's an
just
important thing
learning
to
what it means
realize.
to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And so we all make mistakes. And, I found when you're in a position of leadership, no pastor, well, I shouldn't say that. When I pastored, let me put it this way, I didn't want to hurt anybody, but there are decisions that have to be made. And there were times when, well, if I make this decision, this person's going to get hurt. If I make that decision, this person's going to get hurt. If I make no decision, everybody gets hurt. And
Yeah.
so sometimes just in leadership, you've got to make decisions that aren't popular. And so somebody's going to get hurt. And so you have to kind of realize sometimes that you're going to get hurt, but so did Jesus. And if it happened to him, he said, if they treat me this way, then don't you be expect to be treated better than how they treat me. And so because he did live a perfect life. Sometimes our hurts are self-inflicted. We do stupid things and then we get rebuked for it. And we think, oh, they're just being mean to me. No, they're really trying to help you. Wounds of a friend, right?
I think that's a key distinguisher too, because a lot of times I talk to people and they say that "Oh, I really got hurt by somebody. They judged me at that church." And really,
Yeah.
when it comes down to what it is that they saw that you were living short of what they knew the potential was in you. And they felt like they had the relationship with you. That wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. You've got a good friend when they're willing to tell you what you don't want to hear. And a lot of times what I hear from people that were hurt by the church, and I've claimed this sometimes, and I realize actually I needed what that person said to me, is they're saying, no, 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 you're living way short of what your potential is. And we say, oh, I feel judged. Why aren't you accepting me the way I am? But really, sometimes it's a sign of love that someone is saying, you've got so much more in you than the way you're living right now, and you can step it up and be more than that. But we often walk away going, "Ah, they didn't accept me the way I was," and say, well, maybe it's a sign they actually loved you for what you could, like where you were, but they saw what you could be and they loved you so much they didn't want you to stay there. I think that's one of the key factors to recognize too, is sometimes we've been hurt by the church, but really it's you felt judged when it was somebody calling out greatness in you.
Right, yeah. Or pointing out an area where you are doing something that's self-destructive, and they're just trying to really help you. And you know, it really does take a tremendous amount of love to confront somebody,
Mm.
because most of us are healthy enough that we don't like confrontation. You know, somebody told me one time that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy.
Mm.
It's like, okay, I can love you or I can hate you, but either way, I have strong emotions towards you. But if I don't love you, I just, well, whatever. If he walks off a cliff, it's not nothing to me, you know. So
Yeah.
I
One
think that's probably pretty accurate.
one of the things I've noticed too is some of the people that have been hurt the worst by the church are actually people in ministry or church leaders.
Oh yeah,
Because one of the challenges, and I think people don't realize this, is when you get fired from a church or cut loose from a church, it's a double whammy for you because not only do you lose your job, you
right.
also lose your family, community family.
And many
And
times you have to leave the community, the whole town. You got to uproot your family. You've got to move. That means schools for kids. It's really an upheaval.
and integrity sometimes means you don't get to
Oh
say,
yeah,
man, they fired me unjustly or whatever. And
yeah,
sometimes the church, they if you know, sometimes if you needed to be fired, right? If there's an immoral failure or something. But a lot of times I've seen people that have just been, the church changes directions, a new pastor, and says, hey, you don't fit in here anymore. And everybody's like, what did he do? What did he do? And you don't get anybody to defend you and you feel all alone. That's the hard
yeah,
part, is when you get cut off and the church people in the church are like, are we allowed to call him and or her and check in what
yeah,
happened? And you end up feeling really alone when you've been working at a church because you've lost your community. And I've seen pastors that, I mean, they really been hurt by the church, which consequently makes them sometimes on edge if they haven't walked through their own forgiveness. But
yeah.
it's a double whammy, I think, for
Yeah.
pastors.
Yeah, we had a situation like that, you know, and of course, I mean, these are people we'd ministered to for over a decade. And, you know, you wanted to call them, but we could not, because
Mhm.
what's the first question that's going to come up? Well, what happened?
What really
And
happened?
we're not going to lie, but it doesn't do anybody any good to tell the truth, you know, either. Maybe it'd make me feel good. Well, this is what happened, you know, but that just brings more hurt to more people. And you don't want to leave a bunch of bloody bodies in the wake, you know.
Mhm.
I always think of David when Absalom was rising up against him, and he could have marshaled the troops and he could have fought, but he said, you know, if I do that, there's going to be a lot of death here in Jerusalem. I'm just going to leave. And so he walked away from it. And he said, look, if God put me on the throne, you know, God made me the pastor, you might say, God put me in this position of leadership. If he wants me here, maybe he's done with me. If he's done with me, then I sure don't want to be here. And that, if Saul had taken that approach, how much easier his life would have been. But he didn't.
Mhm.
He held on to that power. And David said, look, if God's done with me, I don't want to be here. If God's not done with me, he put me on the throne. He can put me back on the throne. And he walked away and didn't cause a lot of bloodshed because of it to
Which is
innocent people.
one of the books you had me read early on when we started getting serving in the church was a book called A Tale of Three Kings
Yeah,
by
it's a great
Gene
one.
Edwards. And it's a book for anybody that's ever felt like they've been hurt by the church or feel like they've been abused. It's it it doesn't make you necessarily feel like you're more justified, but it really makes you start to question your own heart and where you
Yeah,
are in it. And I would recommend it. Tale of Three Kings, Gene Edwards. I heard Andy Stanley recommend it. Anybody that's been in ministry for a while has probably needed to read that
yeah.
because it's about that. So closing thoughts, you're sitting here right now saying, I don't, it's a great time to not go back to church because of COVID. Those people are
Yeah.
mean. I don't like those people. It's a lot easier to watch them from a TV screen. What's your advice to people that have been hurt by the church?
Well, two things I'd say is, first of all, we do need one another. You know, just like your body, or just like a coal in a fire. You know, if you take a coal out of the barbecue pit, if you pick a coal out, the rest of the fire is going to stay glowing hot. Now that coal over there may be hot, and so many times when you're disconnected from the church, you think, "Well, I'm still okay. I'm doing great." Yeah, you're still glowing. You're still warm. You're not lost because you didn't go to church 5 weeks in a row. But you know what? The cooling down is so slow. It's the old frog in the kettle in reverse type of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't even notice how distant you're getting from the Lord, because he never intended for this to be an individual walk with him. You know, this me and Jesus got my own thing going. That's a country song. It's not biblical. It's not biblical at all. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'd close with this, though. I remember a thing that really, really helped me as a young believer, because I've told the story before. Was saved in the Jesus People movement, and a dirty hippie who was just barely saved. He came up to me and he told me, I don't know why he decided I needed to hear this, but he came up to me and he said, "Let me tell you something, brother." He said, "People in the church, they're going to hurt you." I said, "Oh, really?" And I thought I didn't believe that. And he says, "But remember this, Jesus ain't never done you nothing but good." And about 5 years later, I was ready to toss in the towel. I was sitting in my car. I was done with the church. I was fed up. I had it. And I just remembered, Jesus ain't never done me nothing but good. And I thought, you're right, Lord. Why would I give
Right.
up on your bride?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a few jerks in the church. And who knows? Maybe I'm the biggest one of them all.
And again, Jesus, he always sets the example for us. He knows what it's like to be hurt by the church.
He
So
does.
stay in there, look to him, keep your
I
eyes
would
fixed on
say
him.
hang in there, but that would not be a real appropriate
No.
in the case. But hang in there.
Hang in there. Jesus did.
He
Okay.
did.
All right. Hey, good talk, Dad. Good talking to you.
Blessings.